Have you ever heard the phrase, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep? Well, generational wealth would argue it's actually about how much money you pass on. So 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the next generation. So in this video, let's dive into how you can create generational wealth for your family, your kids, and really leave behind a legacy. Now, I'm going to dive into a few really unique strategies that could allow you to create generational wealth starting today, like right now. And surprisingly, no one really talks about a few of these methods, but I really think that you would be missing out by not knowing about them. Now, before we dive into the actual strategies and tactics, there are two components that are the most important part to building generational wealth. Part of how I learned this was spending time around rich people, or at least people that had a lot more money than me. You see, when I was 19 years old, I got my investment licenses, which meant somehow it was legal for me as a 19-year-old to help people invest their money. Now, I wind up getting more and more licenses over the years. I managed over $100 million in money for my clients as a financial advisor. So I got to have a really unique experience and perspective in being able to, number one, see exactly how much money these wealthy people had in their accounts. And not just how much, how they accumulated it, and then to see where they put it, how they allocated it, and most importantly, how they continued to grow it. So as you think about and plan and execute on building generational wealth for your family, you must first have these two foundational things. Now, if you were to build a house, what's the most important thing that you need to do in order for the house to be safe to live in and support the structure of the house? It's the foundation. If a house has a weak or cracked foundation, the entire house can be compromised. It doesn't matter how big or beautiful the house is, it must have a strong foundation. No exceptions. The same thing rings true for creating generational wealth. The two foundations you must have before we dive into the strategies and tactics is number one, planning. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Imagine you decide to take a road trip 1,000 miles away. You get no gas, you don't know the directions, you've got no snacks in the car, you didn't pack any clothes, you had no plan. To create generational wealth involves intentional planning. It's the boring that creates wealth. Number two is the right habits. Look, you can plan all day and have the greatest strategy on earth to create generational wealth, but if you don't execute on it as a daily habit, then it's not going to work. So why do we need to talk about these seemingly cliche things before talking about any of the good stuff? Well, because it doesn't matter how fancy your strategies and tactics are. If you don't have the right mindset and discipline to follow through on your plan or to execute the right habits and to do it consistently, then the strategies won't work for you. Or maybe they'll work for you for just a little bit of time, a few years, and then poof, gone. All right. With that out the way, let's dive into the meat and potatoes, the strategies. Now, the first strategy I'm going to hit you with is a bit of a curveball because I didn't want to bring the same old stuff that everyone talks about when it comes to creating generational wealth. I wanted to give you more tools and some of the things that the rich use that really aren't obvious. So number one, it's life insurance. Stick with me here because this one is more interesting than it seems and has some incredible tax benefits. The reason why I bring up life insurance first is because it's the only one that you and I could implement literally today and position your family to secure generational wealth immediately without much risk or money out of pocket. You and I today could go out and get a $2 million term life insurance policy. You could be flat broke and have little to no money to your name, and if God forbid something happened to you, your family could have $2 million overnight. You want to know the really interesting part about this? In most cases, life insurance proceeds are not taxable. Meaning, if your family got a $2 million check from life insurance proceeds, they aren't going to pay a single dollar of taxes when they receive that money. Look, the rich have been using life insurance as a wealth building tool for decades now. It's really fascinating. There are actually ways to use life insurance to provide some living benefits for you too, not just when you die. People use it to accumulate money in cash value, and then they take a loan against it to take out money that is not taxable. We're not going to get into that strategy here, but that's a whole other strategy, maybe in another video. Now, YouTube tells me that the largest demographic of audience watching this is between 25 to 34 years old, 28% of you guys. Then 23% are 35 to 44, and so on. But when we add it up, over 80% of you who watch my videos are 25 and older. So for most of you, life insurance is incredibly affordable and a very responsible thing to do. As an example, a 30-year-old might only pay $50 or $60 a month for a 30-year term life insurance policy. And medical emergencies and death are two of the most disruptive events in building wealth in any meaningful way. You could be making $200,000 a year right now, and maybe you have a family, you have young kids, maybe your spouse doesn't work, and what happens if you died? Are they gonna have enough money? Are they gonna be protected? And so life insurance is not just a way to potentially pass on money, but it's a duty and responsibility that you have to your family. Now, this video is not a deep dive into life insurance, but if you want me to make a video on one and do a deep dive, let me know in the comments below, because there's a lot more to this topic and interesting strategies that you can use. But generally speaking, you have two types of life insurance: permanent insurance and term insurance. Permanent insurance typically covers you for your entire life, no matter how long you live. So if you get a policy at 30 years old and it's for $2 million, if you die at age 99, it pays out the $2 million. Term insurance works differently though. If you have a 30-year term insurance policy and you get it at age 30, after the 30th year, the insurance generally will expire. So if you didn't die in that 30-year period, then you don't get any financial benefit, but just peace of mind that your family's taken care of if something happened to you. For me personally, I have a combination of both. I have term life insurance to cover me while I'm still building wealth, and permanent life insurance that will cover me my entire life. Strategy number 2 is a college savings plan. Think about what the highest destroyer of your kids' wealth would probably be early on. Student loans. The average student loan debt in 2023 was $38,787. The average cost of attending a 4-year in-state public college was over $28,000. God forbid you go to a private school, it's $60,000 a year. And from 2010 to 2020, the average annual inflation at a public 4-year college was, can you guess how much? 12%. So just by preparing to make sure that your kids can have college paid for, you put them ahead financially, which in turn allows generational wealth to be created. Now you may say, but I want my kids to have to pay for their school. Cool, make them work and save and invest their money. There are ways to still accomplish this while executing on whatever your parenting strategy is. The point is, by having your kids' college tuition taken care of, you put them ahead financially and create generational wealth. And the government incentivizes you to do this. The most common way to save for college is through a 529 plan. In simple terms, when money is put into this special account that, as long as it's used for school, all of the growth is tax-free. Interesting, right? Let's put some real life examples to this. Let's say over 18 years, you put $100,000 in a 529 for your kids. That's $5,555 a year, and about $462 a month. So nothing super crazy. Most of your car payments are probably more than that. But at 7% interest rate, the money would double to $200,000 over 18 years. Now keep in mind, you're putting the money in over an 18-year period. Quick sidebar, if you were able to put the $100,000 all in at one time, it would grow to $337,000 over 18 years. Okay, but the original $100,000 in growth, as long as it's used for college, you pay $0 in taxes on the growth, compared to if you made that money in a taxable investment account, you would pay $15,000 to $20,000 in taxes depending upon your long-term capital gains tax rate. Let's not even talk about income taxes. The cool thing is you can really load up on this. In 2024, you can put in $18,000 a year in a 529 for your kids without triggering a gift tax. That's a whole other video talking about gift tax. But so my wife and I, we have been maxing out our contributions for our kids in their college savings plans every year since they were born. Because of this, our 2-year-old and our 5-year-old have more money in their college savings accounts than most people have in their retirement accounts. And look, I don't say this to brag, but it's something that I'm proud of, because I know that despite anything else I produce financially for my kids, they are already going to be really far ahead financially just from doing that. Strategy number 3, owning a business. So a buddy of mine started a business from scratch with his wife. They did really well, built it up to over $10 million a year in sales, and after about 10 years in business, sold it to a private equity company for just shy of $10 million. For most people, building a business from scratch is incredibly difficult and overwhelming, which is why I used owning franchises as my first strategy to get my first wins under my belt owning businesses. I was able to produce millions of dollars in sales and eventually sell those businesses and reinvest the capital into starting other businesses and investments. So I recently put together a 17-page PDF breakdown of 5 low-cost franchises that all make over $1 million or more a year. And if you want access to it, you can go grab it for free at franchiseempire.com/low cost. The link is also down below. Now, to this day, business ownership is hands down one of the best ways to build generational wealth. I mean, you hear stories and names like Rockefeller and Sam Walton, who founded Walmart, and the Vanderbilts, but you don't need to be a famous name who built a billion-dollar company for your family to benefit from this strategy. But imagine you build a business. You're able to get it to doing $5 million a year in sales and 20% profit margins. That's $1 million a year in income. If you were to pass that down to your kids to take over the business, they are taking over an asset that is owned, where they can continue to increase the value of that asset and earn $1 million in income in the meantime. Like, what job are they gonna go be able to get to earn $1 million in income with? Now, there are unique ways that you can set this up by setting up a trust that owns the business, and then your kids operate it if you still wanted to maintain control. There's all kinds of advanced strategies you can use. Now, when it comes to paying taxes, most people commonly say that the tax code was built for business owners. And there are so many tax benefits to owning a business, and reducing taxes is also a key way to help create generational wealth. Because again, it's not just about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. Number 4 is investing. I remember being about 22 years old, meeting with a client who was 60. He had never made more than $60,000 in a year, but he had over $1 million in his retirement account. He just kept investing money periodically through every paycheck, and he also kept buying his company's stock through his paycheck. Check this out. If you were able to invest $500 a month for 35 years and get 8% interest, you've got over $1,154,000. 35 years. I know. Sounds boring and a long time. And that's why most people are broke and don't create generational wealth, because they aren't willing to execute on the right planning and habits over the long term that create wealth. If you're 30 right now, 35 years puts you at 65. That's retirement age. $500 a month, $6,000 a year, $1.15 million. That's the get rich slow plan. If you were able to put in $1,000 a month, guess how much? $2.3 million. Maybe you're a high earner, you're aggressive with your saving and investing, and you're able to put in $1,500 a month. That turns into $3.4 million. This is why earning as much money as you can will help you a lot in creating generational wealth, because the more you can put aside, the more astronomical the numbers get. So my personal goal is to save and invest 20% of my business's total profits each year. It's not easy. I would love to buy more stuff and go on more vacations, but creating financial freedom for me and my family is more important. So when I recently bought my first dream car, a Range Rover SVR with 550 horsepower, although I came really close to spending $90,000 on a 2022 model, I decided to spend 40 grand instead on a 2017. And I'm still as happy as can be. Plus, when you target investing a specific percentage of your overall income, then it allows you to just spend the rest guilt-free. And for someone like myself who often feels guilty spending money on things, it's allowed me to feel more peace of mind around money, because I have a plan and I'm executing on that plan. Now, here's a really interesting part about investing, the tax benefits. So if you own $1 million in stocks and you paid $500,000 for it, over time it doubled, right? And so if you sold it, you would have to pay taxes on the $500,000 of growth. But check this out. If you die and pass the stocks on to your family, they get what's called a stepped up cost basis, which means the new cost of those stocks or whatever the value was the day that you died. So if it was worth $1 million, that becomes the new cost. So they could literally sell it the next day and not pay any taxes. Interesting, right? The same applies to real estate, which is why a lot of people invest in real estate. You have a tangible asset that continues to grow in value, and then you can pass it on to your family and get a stepped up cost basis. Ultimately, the more money you make, the easier it is to build generational wealth. So in this video, I break down how I turn my annual income into my monthly income, and how you can too. Check it out and make sure to like and subscribe before you go. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.